Hey there, it's Olivia Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and we are halfway through the year. So you know what time it is. It's time for the mid-year freakout tag for 2022. So I am going to do my very best to answer these questions, and I'm going to do my absolute tip-top very best to not repeat any books for any answers. So it's one book or one author per answer. Let's see if we can do this. So the first question is the best book you've read so far this year, and for that I have to say it's a poetry collection. It's Bless the Daughter, Raised by a Voice in Her Head by Warsan, Shire. This was my anticipated poetry collection for the year. I was just so excited and it absolutely blew my mind, and it was just such a good and solid poetry collection. It has a lot to do with womanhood and raising yourself and like self-identity and self-development. It has a lot to do with motherhood. It has a lot to do with being an immigrant. It has a lot to do with contemporary times and contemporary situations. And Warsan Shire's language is just so beautiful, and her descriptions are just so vivid in terms of painting an image in your mind, in terms of getting her message across. She never missed. None of her poems missed in the slightest. It was hit after hit after hit. The next question is the best sequel that you've read so far this year, and I just cannot find it anywhere. It's in my room somewhere, but the best sequel, hands down, easiest answer I've ever had to give for a tag, is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. There is nothing that N.K. Jemisin cannot do. There is no mountain her words cannot move or her characters cannot move. There is no world building that I've ever read that is better than N.K. Jemisin's world building, and she is just like master of science fiction, of Afrofuturism. It's there. There's nothing I can do to contradict it. I'm currently reading The Stone Sky and it is fantastic, and she is just such a good author. The first book in this series is the 5th season, and it was one of the best books that I read in 2021, so you can just tell that every single one of them is a hit. And in the first book, you're set in a world where origins exist, and origins have the ability to manipulate the land and the soil, and you would think that these characters would be the ones who are kind of the highest in the hierarchy of their world, but unfortunately they are not. They are at the bottom. And the book kind of discusses the hierarchy and how it's working, and another season begins, and these seasons are quite apocalyptic and brutal, and we just follow the characters from there. I'm not doing a very good job of describing the series, but if you read science fiction, even if you don't, put your big brain glasses on, because you'll need them, and read the 5th season. Read The Obelisk Gate, read The Stone Sky, let it become one of your favourite trilogies like it's doing for me and my sister. And that is all I have to say. Best sequel, easiest answer. The next question is a new release that you want to read but haven't read yet, and for me that is Only on the Weekends by Dean Atta. This one came out in May and I'm so excited to read it. I will definitely have a vlog going up at some point reading Only on the Weekends in a weekend. And this one is a novel in verse where we have our main character and he's kind of looking for love, and he meets someone new, but at the same time someone from his past comes back up who he used to have a crush on. So it's kind of a bit of a deciding between these two love interests and what might happen. And I don't really need to know too much about it, to be honest. The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta was fantastic. I love a good novel in verse. I've heard Dean Atta talk before in person and he was great, and I just want to read his next novel in verse. The next question is your most anticipated release for the rest of the year, and it's bittersweet, but the answer is the 3rd book in the Dreamer Trilogy by Maggie Stiefvater. But it is the 3rd and final book in the Dreamer Trilogy, which is the sequel series to The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater, which is the series that is kind of like my life. It's a series that I'm absolutely head over heels in love with, because I fell in love with the main characters. All of them. They are the best. And therefore, I'm looking forward, but also not looking forward to the last book that's ever going to be set in this world. She's doing it. She's done with the Raven Cycle universe. And so it's going to be an experience reading that. It's also going to be a very interesting experience because I don't particularly love this second sequel series nearly as much or anywhere as close to how much I love the first series. This is just a series that I'm reading kind of out of obligation. There's no way I can not read it. but I'm not having the time of my life reading it at the same time. So the next question is your biggest disappointment of the year so far. And this is my biggest disappointment, but I rated it 4 stars, okay? So I really enjoyed the book and it was great, but I was so disappointed by Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. Alexis Hall is my favourite romance writer. He usually writes gay romance books that are adult and very steamy, but he's kind of changing his tune a bit and he's branching out, and he used to be independently published, but this was the first book of his I've read since he's been traditionally published, and whoa, was it different from his indie published stuff. So Boyfriend Material is about Luke, and he almost gets fired from his job. He can only keep his job if he finds a very respectable boyfriend to bring up and, you know, make his public name not as smeared as it currently is. Cue in him fake dating Oliver Blackwood, who is this lawyer who doesn't really care about him and doesn't want anything to do with him, but it kind of works in each other's favour if they fake date and pretend to be boyfriends. So that's the storyline. It was good fun. The book as it is for itself is a really nice romance book. Oliver Blackwood is lovely, must be protected at all costs. Luke is a bit annoying, but he's kind of lovable annoying, so that's good, I suppose, and it's full of like British culture and Britishisms, and there's this secondary character who doesn't understand jokes, which is very, very funny and entertaining, and it's a very, very traditionally published romance book in the terms of the fact that it's not steamy at all the scenes are fade to black, and it's kind of watered down Alexis Hall writing style. His writing style is usually lyrical and beautiful and feels quite literary, even though he's writing romance, which is not seen as a literary genre. And it just was like someone poured a bucket of water on his writing style and someone decided to remove the like best steamy scenes I've ever read. He just writes them amazingly and they just took them all out. I don't know. It just was a big disappointment because I love his other romance books so much, and this just could not compare in the slightest. This felt like a basic romance book for me. These felt like heaven. And that's why I really enjoyed my most disappointing read of the year. We have the biggest surprise, and those are going to 2 books, and that is Geekerella and The Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston. These are fairy tale retellings. This one is of Cinderella and this one is of The Princess and the Pauper, and they are contemporary ones that are set around this con, which is for a made-up fandom that exists in this world, and this one is like a celebrity meets normal person romance. This one is not that, but it's also very good, and these just came into my life and surprised me. They filled me with so much joy. They're so predictable, but they're so much fun and they're so lovely, and the main characters are lovely, and it's created this fandom that I am a fan of, even though the fandom doesn't even exist. And I think when I picked up reading Geekerella, I was just like, I'm going to read one of the oldest young adult contemporaries on my TBR, and it's going to be nice, but it's not going to be amazing. I thought it was just going to be a solid 3-star read, and then I absolutely loved both of them, and I just need to read the 3rd and final one, which I will definitely do this year, because they are giving me serotonin, they are giving me good vibes. So the next question is for your favourite new author. So this is an author who you haven't read before, and I really struggled, because this year I've really been reading books by authors where I've liked one of their books and wanted to try more, and I've kind of been doing that a lot, and if I haven't been doing that, I've been finding my reads to be either great or good, but not new favourites. And I also find it difficult to say an author is a favourite when I've only read one of their books. I even rarely say that authors are my favourite anything. I mostly tend to have favourite books rather than favourite authors. But if I had to say an author right now on the spot, I might say Joya Goffney, because I really enjoyed Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry and I do want to try more of her. Or I might say Ruth Ozeki, because I really enjoyed the Book of Form and Emptiness and want to read more Ruth Ozeki books. But truthfully, I don't really have an answer to this question. Then the next question is new fictional crush, who is your new book boyfriend? And I always have an answer to this. Every year there's always a standout boy in a book, but this year I have to be like the rest of you and be like, no, I don't have one, but maybe one will come in the other half of the year. It's just that I've been reading a lot of young adult contemporary and they're all a little bit young, okay? So because I've been reading young adult contemporary, there really hasn't been anyone for me, although some of the love interests have been truly lovely. And in terms of adult books, I've been reading books where there's not really a love interest because there's no romance involved, or all of the characters are horrible and I love it, so it's not really like love interest material. If I had to actually give an answer, if I had to, I would say Ryan Kwok from Do Not Fall in Love by Jackie Lau, but I am reading this at the moment, so I'm not actually finished. And also, he's great, he's lovely, and I love that for our main character, but I don't really want that for myself. Yeah, so that's my answer. Then we have a book that made you cry, and no book has made me cry. I don't cry when I read, but the closest one to making me an emotional mess was Scars Like Wings by Erin Stewart. And this is another young adult contemporary book. I recently read this in April and I vlogged my experience reading it. And it's about this young girl who is a burn survivor, and she's going to school for the first time since she's finished with all of her life-saving operations. And it's just about her experience going to school for the first time with a visible disability and what that's like. And also she's still dealing with the grief and trauma from losing her parents in this house fire and trying to adjust to fitting into a new family unit. And it was just a very, very emotional book. It was dealing with heavy grief, and it was dealing with just wanting to be a teenager, and it had something to do with theatre as well, which is something I absolutely love. So when it all came together at the end and was like coming together in the middle, I was just feeling it inside my heart, and it was very emotional and lovely, but very emotional. A book that made you happy, and I've chosen books. And those are Morgan Matson. This year so far I've read Since You've Been Gone, Second Chance Summer, and Amy and Roger's Epic Detour, and I've rated most of these 3 stars and one of them 4 stars. But Morgan Matson, I don't know what she does, but she just makes me very, very happy. She writes young adult contemporary books, and you just follow our main character who's kind of having a basic life and maybe 1 or 2 exciting things are happening, and it just is steady. It moves forward. She often repeats the same thing, so there's often theatre involved. You can see I like books with theatre in them. It's often something to do with Stanwich or set in Stanwich, which Americans will understand more than me. I just know that Stanwich keeps popping up. I don't even know where Stanwich is. And oftentimes grief, which is a reading buzzword for me, so that's easy. And she does a very good job of balancing friendships and having a main friendship storyline and a romantic relationship storyline, which I always like to see. And family is always involved. So even though maybe Second Chance Summer did make me happy, but it's a sad one, I just think reading her books in general makes me a happy reader. Now I get to show off the most beautiful book that I've bought or received this year. Heads Over Heels was such an easy answer for me. That is this gorgeous Folio Society edition of The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, which is a book as well as a TV film adaptation that lives in my mind rent-free. I can think it's like one of my favourite kind of horror books. I really love it. I just can't get over it. And it's definitely one of my favourite TV shows of all time, even though it's so different from the book. And I don't think it has a nice cover out there. I don't love the covers that it has. But then Folio Society released this gorgeous edition and I had to have it, and I paid a lot for it, but it was worth it. So this is the slipcase. Ooh. And then you slip out the book and you see Hill House, which is stunning. Stunning artwork of Hill House, and inside there are plenty of really beautiful illustrations. Like the artist just captured Hill House and the storyline and the vibes of it incredibly well, and I was in awe when I saw it online, and I was in awe when I had it in my hands, and I just really like the scenes that she chose to illustrate. I just want to find my favourite one right by the start, one of my favourite ones, because it's one of my favourite moments. And it's just a really beautiful hardback book of a book that I love, and so it's definitely my favourite. Most beautiful book that I got. I absolutely skipped over questions, we just do it now. My question was favourite character that I've read so far this year, and if I could bring back N.K. Jemisin's books, I would say Hoa from the Obelisk Gate, who was my favourite in the first book in the series and continues to be my favourite all through the series, but seeing as I can't copy books, as I said, we are going with Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson, and we're going with the demon from Vespertine, because the demon in Vespertine is such a laugh. So Vespertine is about this girl who lives in a nunnery, and she like settles spirits, and she's calm, she's got a lot of power, but she doesn't want to use it or wield it, she just wants to live her life in this nunnery. Then her nunnery gets attacked and she has to wield her power, and there's all these consequences, and it goes wild from there. And this book is just one of those fantasy books that's so much fun, okay? I had a very good time. There's no romance whatsoever. It's all about the fantasy vibes, the friendships, and the fact that she's being possessed by this demon who just wants to kill everybody all of the time. But yeah, it's one of those situations where the banter is so real and the banter is so funny, and it's also another case of begrudgingly having to work together, because this demon wants to kill everyone and she wants to save everyone, and those are two opposite goals, but they are in one body. So there we have it, that's Vespertine, and it was a very good time. And the next question is, what do you need to read before the end of the year? My answer is all of the books on my TBR. Is it going to happen? No, but that's what I need to read. Don't really make TBRs, so I'm not going to tell you or shout out any particular books. There is also a question which is favourite member of the book community, and that's a joke. I absolutely cannot choose one, but anybody who comments down on the description box of one of my videos, leaving a nice long comment, leaving a nice short comment, leaving a little emoji to show that they were here, you are all my favourite members of the community. Anyone who takes the time to watch a video or engage on any of my book social medias, to be honest, it's just always is everything to me. It's truly the reason why I stick around. And there you have it. That is the mid-year freak out tag. Please let me know in the comment section down below. Have you found a new favourite book character to be your best friend, or a new favourite romantic partner who you really love? Let me know who they are down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!